Welcome to the Hour of Empowerment. Today we are in Season 3, Topic 3, The Power of Values, and Episode 3, Values Formation, Shared Values, and Values Alignment. Last week we talked about how values determine whether someone is great or mediocre. And also we talked about how great companies which have unique shared values have been succeeding even in tough times because they have unique shared values. We also gave you some great companies with their unique shared values, and we also gave you one case study, South Korea and Ghana, how these two countries were on the same footing in the 60s. But South Korea changed its values in the early 60s, and within a couple of decades, she transformed herself into developed countries. We emphasize that to change your life and take your organization to the next height, you should embrace values that promote your desire for change. You may ask at this point, yes, I know the power of values. I understand how impactful values are. But how can I form my value system? How can we create shared values? How could we be able to align all stakeholders alongside the shared values? These are great questions. And this episode is designed to help you just that. Let me ask you a couple of questions. First, do you know your values? Yes or no? If you say yes, wonderful. If you say no, don't worry. This program is designed to help you know your values, form your values system. If you know your values, what are your values? Tell me a couple of your values. I'll tell you mine while you are thinking about your values. My values, one of my values is the truth. I am a lifetime learner. I want to know more truth. I don't want to sit around and build doctrines and dogmas based on the truth I know right now. I want to increase my knowledge. I want to be a student, a wisdom student. I want to learn more wisdom, more knowledge. I want to always read, discover. I don't want to sit and build a tower and say that, hey, I know everything I want to know. No, I always want to know the truth. The second value I have is excellence. I'm not a perfectionist, but I will try my best to do things excellently. My third value is sense of urgency. I want to value my time and the time of others. I want to live each day as if it is my last day. What about your values? What are the three most important values of yours and your organization? Now you may have values. The question is, have you communicated your values? How do you communicate your values? Do you use writing? Do you put them on your website? How do you communicate your values? Most importantly, have you shown commitment? This is very important. You can have great values, 10 values, 7 values, 3 values. But the question is, have you shown commitment? Let me give you an example. I told you already that I value time. The question is whether I show commitment, whether I defend this value or not. For example, whenever I have an appointment with someone, I want to be there earlier. If I couldn't be able to make it, I will notify that person, let's say 15 minutes earlier or 30 minutes earlier, even 1 hour earlier, that, hey, I'm trying to come on time, but the traffic looks like very bad. I may be a little bit late. I expect the same from others. But let's say someone showed up late. I won't tolerate, especially if that person doesn't have any explanation why that person is late. One day I may be okay, but if that person repeats the same thing next time and so on, I don't want to work with that person. I don't want to partner with that person because that person doesn't value my time. For example, I respect you, I love you. How do I show that? By respecting your time. If somebody doesn't respect your time, it means that that person doesn't respect you. There is no other way to show respect. So I defend my value, sense of urgency. I defend and protect this value. And I show commitment by being on time, by respecting the time of others. What about you? Do you respect your values? Do you commit yourself to your values? And also, have you shared your values with other people? Have you found people who share your values? Now let me also give you another exercise. Pick an organization which you admire. It could be your own organization, your own business. But pick one organization and answer the following questions. First, what are some of the values of this organization? Do you know their values? Which ones do they hold high, defend, respect? Which ones do they barely epitomize? Are all stakeholders aligned with the core values? Why? If they are aligned, why do you think they are aligned alongside the shared values? If they are not, why? Now let me give you a good exercise, which means 4 hypothetical stages. You may find in one of these stages, you or your organization, no value, core values, shared values, aligned. Now, here is a graphic representation of the 4 stages. Now, you should be able to identify where you are personally and where your organization is. Are you in the no values zone? Are you in the core values zone? Or are you in the shared values zone? Or aligned zone? Let's see each one of them. No values. If you are in this stage, which means you don't have formal and espoused values. Of course, you have to know that every individual and organization has values that dictate their behaviors, decisions, actions, and partnership choices. But here we're talking about, when we say no values, we mean that you don't have written values. Otherwise, whether you recognize them or not, whether you are conscious about them or not, whether you promote them or not, there are values that are on the driver's seat and controlling behind the scene your life, your organization. But you don't have written values, you don't espouse any values as your own values. You don't have values on your websites and on your company documents. But I'm assuming that more than 90% of today's business, they have values. And most of these organizations, they post their values on their websites. The second stage is core values. If you are in this stage, means you have espoused core values, but they're not yet shared values, which means the top leadership, owners of that organization, they may espouse these values, but the majority of the stakeholders might not be embracing and owning these core values. The third stage is shared values. You have values, and they are shared by the majority of the stakeholders. You don't only espouse them, but you share them with your stakeholders. They own them. Rather than saying your values, they say our values. And they fight and defend these shared values. If you remember last time, I was talking about organizations that succeeds even in bad times. These organizations, they could be able to have shared values, and the stakeholders own these values. They fight for them. They defend them. That's why even in bad times, in crisis, that organization thrives. But the most envious stage is aligned. Not only you have shared values, shared by all stakeholders, but you have all your stakeholders, teams and departments constantly align themselves alongside the shared values. That means there is no compartmentalization, there is no deviation from the shared values. Let me explain this. For example, your organization has important values like, for example, excellence. All departments, all individuals, all teams are aligned with this value. Now, if your organization is aligned, which means your organization's people, processes, and procedures aligned alongside the shared value, means your shared values determine key decisions, priorities, partnerships, and strategies of that organization. If you intend to change these, you always go to your shared values and make sure that the new change aligns with the shared values. Once more, let's see whether you are in one of these stages. Are you in the no values, core values, shared values, or aligned zone? Now the goal is, wherever you are, you have to go to the next height, the next level. Let's say you don't have any value. Now the goal is to take you to the next level, which means as an individual and organization, you should have core values. Let's say you are already in the core values. The goal is to take you to the next stage, which means having shared values, values that are shared by all the stakeholders. If you are already in the shared values, you have to go to the next level, which means you need to align your people, your processes, your policies alongside the shared values. And this is the most envious place, and this is a place where you need to bring your people, because you can't really enjoy the benefit from having shared values unless you have aligned people, aligned processes, procedures, and policies. Now let's assume that you're going to start today from scratch to come up with your values, individual values and your organization's values. Now the question is, what kind of steps you should follow? Here are the 5 steps you could be able to follow and achieve this result, which means having your shared values. First, discover. Second, embrace. Third, communicate. Fourth, impart. And fifth, align. Let's see each one of them. Before that, I would like to give you a diagram that represents the life cycle of values formation. Discover, embrace, communicate, impart, and align. Let's see each one of them. First, discover. If you don't have any value right now, don't worry. You could be able to discover them from where? From within. They're not far. Your values are within you. It takes time for you to sit down, reflect, and dig inside of you and discover your values. And your mission, your passion, your burden, your cause, and who you are births your values. So your values determine who you are. They reflect who you are. So if you know who you are, if you know your burden, if you know your passion, then it's very easy for you to identify those values that back up who you are and what you stand for. The second step is embrace. Yes, you have already discovered your values, but you have to embrace these values and internalize them. Very important. Every aspect of your life, your behaviors, your interactions, your decisions and actions should reflect your values. You have to embrace them, own them, internalize them. The third step is communicate. Once you discover and embrace your values, the next step is to communicate them to the outside world. Yes, you discover them within you. Yes, you impress them, you internalize them. This is time now to take them to the next level, which is communicating them using various avenues. You could use writing articles, writing blogs, posting them on your website, chat with people and share your values, and so on and so forth. And your communication of your values should continue until you create shared values. The fourth step is impart. This is the next height where you impart your values to the people who are working with you, the people who are partnering with you. You start imparting first with the key people, your inner circle. And then at this stage, you explain them the true meaning of your values. If you remember, I talked about sense of urgency is my value. And I explained it, what it means when I implement that value. Likewise, knowing your values is not enough. You should be able to explain it, how it is implemented. People should be clear about it because, for example, a definition of integrity is something for the one person, and it is something very different to another person. Integrity could be something like, for example, for one person is delivering what you promise. For the other person means always telling the truth. Or it could be something else. So you need to define what integrity means to the people you are working with. And help people to understand these values and also implement them in their life, in their job descriptions. The last step is align. This is very important, but it is very, very tough. Among the steps I have described, this one is very challenging. Even if people understand your values, even if they own them, you need to make sure that they are aligned alongside the shared values. How do they act when they make decisions? When conflict arises? So let me explain this step. Let's say you have values. One of your values is the individual. Now, if your departments, your teams, your people, your policies, strategies align with this value, you need to make sure that when you make decision, let's say one decision, you want to downsize. So your value, which is the individual, should be considered when you downsize. Your decisions, your actions should be dictated based on this value. And when your people, your team, your department are aligned with the shared values, they always make sure that their actions, their behaviors, their decisions, their interactions align with your shared values. Of course, the most effective way of aligning your people, policies, procedures alongside the shared vision, the shared values, is to create an office or assign a contact person who understands your values, who breathes, who lives your values. This person or this office should help people to align themselves, the processes to align, the policies and the procedures to align alongside the shared values. It may take time, but it's very crucial. Of course, once you align your people, it's not a one-time party. You have to monitor and evaluate your status by carrying periodic alignment tests. You need to carry out values alignment using some methods. I use some methods to help organizations align themselves, to help them identify if there are misalignments and suggest how to align themselves. So you need to find a method that could be able to help you figure out and identify if there are any misalignments. Now, a critical question here. How do you know whether your values are working or not? Well, the best way to check whether your values are working in your favor is to see the character change they brought in your personal life. Our values collectively form our character, and our character makes or breaks our life, our organization, more than any other single factor. It's very important. It is not the intellect that makes you great. It is character. Let me give you great quotes from great people. Albert Einstein underscored, most people say that it is the intellect which makes a great scientist. They are wrong. It is character. Most people say that it is the intellect which makes a great scientist. They are wrong. It is character. Ralph Waldo Emerson agreed and said that character is higher than intellect. Here is another powerful statement from C.S. Lewis. He said that education without value, as useful as it is, seems rather to make man a more clever devil. Education without values, as useful as it is, seems rather to make man a more clever devil. That's why I'm against the policy of the Ethiopian government, because they focus on expanding education, opening more universities without values. At the top level, they promote corruption, division, favoritism. But they expand education. It doesn't work. Here is the quotation. Education without values, as useful as it is, seems rather to make man a more clever devil. You want to change your country by promoting education? Great. But education without values, it doesn't create great individuals. You want to create great individuals with education? Also help them develop great values. Universal values like love, forgiveness, hard work, discipline, justice, and so on and so forth. Now, you know that when you compromise your individual values or when you violate universal values, what happens? You're going to pay a price. You may fall from grace. Think about individuals like General David Petraeus, Tiger Woods, and Lance Armstrong. These individuals, great individuals. I'm not judgmental here, but I'm showing you that whenever you compromise universal values, what happens? You fall from grace. So it's very important to respect your individual values and universal values. At the organizational level, how do we know that our values are working in our favor, whether they are bringing results and changes? Well, we need to evaluate the corporate culture and see if they could be able to create a conducive atmosphere that promotes your priorities, whether your priority is teamwork, cooperation, creativity, or innovation. Now, when organizations fail to respect their values, when they violate universal values, what happens? They go bankrupt. They lose their reputation. Their leaders go to jail for a very long period of time. Here are good examples. Enron, WorldCom, Tycon, Adelphia Communications, and you know the sexual scandal some Catholic, Angelical, and Evangelical churches have been experiencing because of violating universal values. So you want to have a great, solid organization, community, you need to have great values. You need to defend them, fight for them, respect them, and show commitment to your values, which means having values, espousing them, declaring them, posting them on your website is not enough. You need to show commitment. You need to defend them. You need to protect them, nurture them. In conclusion, if you have been attending the last 3 episodes, and if you completely understand the power of values, I am sure that you have changed it forever. You won't be the same. Once you understand the power of values, you won't be a slave of your own values. You know your values, you nurture them, you defend them, you show commitment, you communicate, and you protect them. And they dictate your behaviors, decisions, partnerships, and strategies. And you become unique. Your brand is clear for people. And people trust you because you have values. Even if they don't agree with all your values, what you say and what you do, they respect you because you have took a stand. You have values. You are predictable. And you are very easy to work with because they can easily know that you deliver what you promise. You commit yourself for the thing you believe in. So it's very important for your individual success to know the power of values. And if you have been attending the last 3 episodes, I'm sure that you have changed it forever. And I'm sure that this is a turning point in your leadership and in your organization. And now you have started a journey to become an impactful leader. You set yourself to leave legacy that won't die. You started a journey to change your life, your community, and your organization. And I can only see greatness ahead of you. Your future is bright because you are a man or a woman of values. You will be a seed of change in your family, in your organization, in your community, and you will serve your people, your community, your organization with excellence and with great commitment to your values. Until I see you next week, have a wonderful time. Thank you very much for watching.